Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to see Class 10, Science 2, Chapter number 2, Life Processes in Living Organisms, Part 1. In this, when we talk about the living organisms or the life processes, they are interrelated. As we know that all the living organisms, they have their life processes. Different life processes are involved. Like if I am talking about the human beings, in human beings we have a huge numbers of organs. Different organs are there, and that different organs are working inside the body for the different purposes. Like if I am talking about heart is pumping a blood in the body. If I am talking about the stomach digests the foods. Small intestine, another organ which helps in a digestion. So various organs are there. Kidney is there to filter the blood, brain for thinking, different organs having a different purpose in the body. But when we talk about the living organism, the body of a living organism in which different processes are carrying out, they all are in a coordination, and that coordination brings the entire life possible. Living organisms and their life processes, they are interrelated. Various systems like a digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory, excretory, and this all the systems what we have, the systems are in a complete coordination. They are mentioned over here. All the systems like digestive, respiratory, circulatory, excretory, and control systems, different external and internal organs are performing their functions independently but through a complete coordination. Coordination is a much important part. It's not only this when we talk about, because in a physical part of a science, when we talk about, we had already studied to carry out any work, we require energy. So, we require energy means indirectly it's for each and every cell in our body which comes together, which combines together to form a different muscles in the body. Muscles are forming the organs and all that, so on. Means each and every cell of the body requires energy, and we gain this energy from the foodstuffs whatever we are eating. Whatever we eat, from that we are getting energy, and whatever we eat, in that we have carbohydrates, fats, lipids. They are the main sources of the energy, and the part of a cell which we call as a mitochondria, that helps, or that which is present inside the cell makes the energy from this particular product, or harvest energy from these particular sources of energy: carbohydrates, fats, and lipids. In a further part, when we talk about, in this particular part, they have mentioned over here, the only foodstuff is sufficient for energy production, but oxygen is also necessary. It's but obvious, it's not only the foodstuff what we are eating. Along with that, the oxygen is also a necessary part to harvest the energy from the carbohydrates, fats, and lipids. Foodstuffs and oxygen are transported up to the cell via circulatory system. We have a circulation system in the body. Living organisms are also having a circulation system, and with the help of that circulation system, this foodstuffs, the energy sources in that, carbohydrates, lipids, fats, and oxygen is transported up to the cell of the body. And there inside the cell, the mitochondria helps in the harvesting of the energy. or it brings the process of energy production. On the other hand, when we talk about the human and the other animals, we are depending on the fruits and vegetables. Means we are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are nothing but what? Which depend on the other organisms or the other things for their food. Whereas when we talk about the plants, they are autotrophs. They are producing their own food. Whatever they are producing, whatever food they are producing for themselves, they are not consuming the entire part of it. Some part they are consuming for their metabolism, their internal processes. But the other part of that, the source of energy, what they are producing, they are storing in the body parts like fruits, leaves, stem, roots, etc. We consume all these various plants material. Sometimes we are eating roots like carrots, sometimes we are eating the leaves, sometimes we are eating the fruits. So different particular part of a plants we are consuming. We consume all these parts, and in this particular plant materials, the nutrients which we are getting are like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and the minerals. Next part, when we talk about the other products they have mentioned over here, the examples they have taken the carbohydrates from milk, fruits, jaggery, cane sugar, vegetables, potatoes, sweet meats, and the cereals like wheat, maize, ragi, jowar, millet, rice, etc. When we talk about the carbohydrate, the per gram of carbohydrate gives us a 4 kilocalorie. You can note it down this 4 kilocalorie energy per gram of a carbohydrates can be produced. Now the next part when we talk about in this particular chapter is about the living organism and energy production. In that, first of all, we should know about the respiration part. Here they have given the different parts of the respiratory system, because the one part already we have discussed, that food stuffs from where we are getting and which nutrients we are getting from the different food stuffs. Now the another thing what we require for the energy production in the body is the oxygen. And when we talk about the oxygen in the body, and that we are getting through the respiration. So respiratory system also we should understand. So here we have a different parts, like the first one, that is a nostril through which the air enters inside, mouth, then we have the esophagus, then the vocal cord. Here instead of esophagus you can mention as a trachea, because respiratory system we are discussing. Then here we have a bronchitis. Here we can write as a lungs, and this is a diaphragm. The one part there we mentioned over here, this you can write as a alveoli. Alveoli is the end of the bronchitis present in the respiratory system inside the lungs, where the exchange of gases are taking place. Now here the next part, when we talk about the glucose, they have asked one question over here which is important for exam point of view, that how many atoms of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are respectively present in molecule of glucose. When we talk about the molecule of glucose, formula for that is C6H12O6. So from here we can draw out there is 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen and 6 oxygen in the molecule of glucose. And they have asked about the which type of chemical bonds are present between all these atoms. They are connected to each other by the covalent bond. Now, the further when we talk about the carbohydrates, they are the main component or the main nutrient from which we are getting the energy, or it is utilized for the production of energy in our body on a daily basis. Because every day whatever work we are carrying out, whether walking, sleeping, sitting, writing, reading, playing, all the activities throughout the day, whatever we are doing, it requires energy. And that need of that energy is fulfilled by the food what we are eating, and in that the main component of energy is carbohydrates. This energy is obtained in the form of ATP. ATP is nothing but adenosine triphosphate. And when we talk about the purpose or the glucose, a type of a carbohydrate is oxidized step by step in the cell. And this called as a cellular respiration, because the respiration what we are carrying out in the lungs, that is a different part. But that oxygen is carried up to the each and every cell of the body, and there whatever the respiration or the exchange of a gas is taking place, that is called as the cellular respiration. Cellular respiration occurs among the living organism. The cellular respiration is taking place in the living organism, and there are the two methods of that. The one is the aerobic respiration, where oxygen is involved in the respiration, and another respiration is the anaerobic, where oxygen is not involved. So aerobic, whenever in a science this word comes aerobic and anaerobic, keep in mind aerobic is always involved or linked with the oxygen, and anaerobic in the absence of the oxygen. Now here when we talk about the steps, the two methods, aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, glucose is oxidized in three different steps. Three different steps are involved in that. That we will see one by one. In the first step, which we call as a glycolysis, the process of a glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm of the cell. First of all, the important part, it occurs in a cytoplasm. A molecule of a glucose is oxidized step by step in a process, and two molecules of each. One is a pyruvic acid, one is a ATP, and one is a NADH2. And water are formed. Means a single, when we talk about a single molecule of the glucose, it gets divided into this multiple molecules. Two pyruvic acid, one is a ATP, which is a adenosine triphosphate, and two molecules of a NADH2. Now this NADH2 is actually nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. The name for this is actually, again I am repeating, if you want you can note it down. It is a nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and along with that the water molecule is formed. Molecules of pyruvic acid formed in this process are converted into a molecule of acetyl coenzyme. Acetyl coenzyme A. Two molecules of NADH2 and two molecules of carbon dioxide, that is CO2, are released during this process. Means a further conversion of a pyruvic acid which is formed over here in the glycolysis process is further converted into, or it's getting converted into, the acetyl coenzyme A and the two molecules of NADH2, and along with that two molecules of carbon dioxide gas is also released. Now after this, the further when we talk about the second step of the aerobic respiration, in that the tricarboxylic acid cycle. Both molecules of acetyl coenzyme A, if you remember, then here this acetyl coenzyme A, two molecules are getting liberated or produced in the process glycolysis. That same molecules, acetyl coenzyme, both molecules of acetyl coenzyme enter the mitochondria. It enters inside the mitochondria, and the cyclic chain of reactions called as a tricarboxylic acid cycle is operated on it in the mitochondria. The process which is called as a tricarboxylic acid cycle in the mitochondria is taking place. Acetyl part of the acetyl coenzyme is completely oxidized through this cyclical process, and the molecules CO2, H2O, NADH2, FADH2 are derived. Now here FADH2 is nothing but the flavin adenine dinucleotide. Again, I am repeating this, that is a flavin adenine dinucleotide. Now, the further when we talk about the third step of this, that is the electron transfer chain reaction. Electron transfer chain reaction, when we talk about, in this molecules of NADH2 and FADH2 formed during all above processes. Whatever process we have seen, that processes nothing but the glycolysis and the tricarboxylic acid cycle, in that whatever NADH2 and FADH2 are formed, that all participate in electron transfer chain reaction. Due to this, 3 molecules of ATP are formed or obtained from each NADH2 molecule and 2 molecules of ATP from each FADH2. Means the NADH2, whatever is liberated, that produces 3 molecules of ATP, and FADH2 produces 2 molecules each. So molecules besides ATP, water molecules are also formed in this reaction. Electron transfer chain reaction is operated in mitochondria only. So 2 processes, that is tricarboxylic acid cycle and the electron transfer chain reaction, those 2 takes place inside the mitochondria. There's a molecule of a glucose is completely oxidized. They have mentioned over here, there's a molecule of a glucose is completely oxidized in aerobic respiration, and molecules of CO2 and H2O are produced along with energy. Whatever ATP is produced in this process, that is nothing but the energy, adenosine triphosphate, and along with that the CO2 carbon dioxide gas, which is exhaled out through the respiration, and along with that the H2O water molecule is also formed. In this picture you can see over here the fatty acids and the pyruvic acid. This enters inside and forms the NADH2, FADH2 along with the CO2. Further, they have given information about the ATP adenosine triphosphate is energy rich molecule, and energy is stored in the bonds by which phosphate groups are attached to each other. These molecules are stored in the cells as per need. Chemically, ATP is triphosphate molecule formed from adenosine ribonucleotide. It contains a nitrogenous compound adenine, pentose, sugar ribose, and 3 phosphate groups as per the need. Energy is derived by breaking the phosphate bond of ATP. Hence, ATP is called as energy currency of the cell. Now here that NADH2 and FADH2 long forms they have given over here. So from here also you can note it down. Now here the picture they have given about that ATP. ATP is converted into ADP, adenine ribose with the phosphate bonds, and it's getting converted into a ribose, and along with that the inorganic phosphate, and the energy is released in this process, and that's why it's called as the energy currency of the body. On the other side, when we talk about the insufficient amount of carbohydrates in the body, suppose a person is not eating the sufficient amount of carbohydrates, then what will happen? How the person will gain energy? Now, when we talk about the insufficient amount of carbohydrates, first we will talk about how that's possible. If the person is fasting or is on a hunger, means not eating the sufficient amount of food or the carbohydrates when it requires. Then the lipids and the proteins which are present in the body, they are consumed or they are used for the energy production. In case of lipids, they are converted into fatty acids, whereas proteins into amino acid. So these two materials, two components, that is lipids and proteins, they are consumed in the absence of carbohydrates, and they are converted into fatty acids and the amino acids respectively. And then these are converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and energy is obtained through the complete oxidation of acetyl coenzymes, the oxidation of that. And this particular process is called as the Krebs cycle in mitochondria. Now here why it's called as a Krebs cycle, they have mentioned over here is about, and they have given the introduction about the scientists. Process of glycolysis was discovered by three scientists, Gustav Emden, Otto Mehrenhoff, and Jacob Parnas, along with their colleagues. For this purpose, they performed experiments on muscles. Hence, glycolysis is also called as the Emden-Mehrenhoff-Parnas pathway, EMP pathway in a short. The cyclical reaction of a tricarboxylic acid cycle were discovered by Sir Hans Krebs. Hence, this cyclical process is also called as Krebs cycle. He has been awarded the Nobel Prize for his work in this particular field in the year 1953. Now here they have given about the complete chart. Chart is a simple, you can see over here the lipids and proteins. Lipid is converted into fatty acid and the protein converted into amino acid. And if it is a carbohydrate, then first it goes under the glycolysis, then the pyruvic acid, and then the acetyl coenzyme. Whereas amino acid directly get converted into acetyl coenzyme, and fatty acid is also directly converted into acetyl coenzyme, and then the tricarboxylic acid cycle, which is also known as the Krebs cycle, and then the production of the CO2, H2O, and energy. This is about the aerobic respiration. In the next part, we will talk about the further, that is the anaerobic respiration and the further part. Thank you.